Hey everybody, today's video I'm going to go on the Manatee Queen. We're going to take a tour in the intracoastal here in Jupiter and see some interesting scenery. This is going to be a beautiful day. It's a little windy, but this is going to be a fun ride. So let's hop on board, Captain.
As for the trip itself, guys, we're going to go off the dock and we're going to go north. First half of the trip, we point out some of the history of the area, some of the people that live around here, some of the things to do around here. Once we get all the way up and turn to come back down, we just try to piece it up for the evening and enjoy a nice ride out here on the water. Any questions, guys?
No.
All right, we're ready to go. Back in business. What do you guys think of my house over there to the left? You guys like that? Should we stop for dinner? Should we just go? Yeah, it's not my house. I have no idea who lives in that house right there, but this is what I do now. That house was for sale January of 2020. They were asking $5.1 million for that house, which is not a bad price for the house, even at that price. Someone bought it, and then they spent a year and a half renovating that house inside and out, top to bottom, before they moved in. So they just moved in last summer, but since they bought it for $5 million in January of 2020 till today, what's happened? How much is that house worth now? Probably about $10 million for that piece of property, 8 to 10 million. Yeah, the price of real estate down here has gone skyrocketed the past year, so their little $5 million investment is paid off. Now, I can't afford any of that, but if you look over here to the right, you see that blue boat there, the one with no mast, up to the sailboat right there? That's what I can afford. Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, you can go out there, you can find those boats all around. They're going to run you about $250, $500 or something like that. In the summertime, I get groups of people who have no idea who Burt Reynolds is. Burt Reynolds, longtime resident, Jupiter, Florida. We'll go by his old house a little bit later on. We'll talk a bit about him then. But everybody wants to know what happened over here to the right. What happened? It sank. Looking for condos. They've been running about $1 million right there. These here with the boat lifts, though, these blue ones, they've been running about $1 to $2 million, probably pushing $2 million and up now as the price has really skyrocketed. What comes with condos, though? Association fees. Yeah, we'll talk about fees later. This area off to the right, where all these rocks are, this is a tidal swim area right here. So when the tide goes out, all that water gets pulled out, and then when the tide changes, it comes back in and pushes all new water back in there. It goes way back beyond the bridge over there too. So if you're not real comfortable in the ocean, or you have little ones, or the ocean's really rough, this is actually a good place to go check out. See all the families there now. You can actually snorkel around these rocks. There's some cool stuff to see, but if you're going to be on this side of these rocks, by law, you must have your diver down flag. You are in a very active channel, and you will get in trouble and get injured. Look right off the front of the boat. The ocean is calming down. I think we can make it. He's flying a drone over this inlet one day, just on a random day, and it's an outgoing tide. A boat comes in, takes a wave over the bow. You watch this boat go from above water to underwater in less than 2 seconds. It's almost instantaneous. It's an outgoing tide. The captain gets washed off. He's getting sucked out to sea. Swims over, grabs onto one of the rocks by the jetties. A local surfing boy comes out on a surfboard and saves him from getting sucked out. So it's pretty wild. If you're here Saturday, Sunday, come here on an outgoing tide. You can probably watch this water go 3 directions both at once. It'll go in, out, and sideways all at the same time right here. So, pretty crazy. What do you think of that house right there? You guys like that house?
Yes.
You want to know who lives there?
Yes.
Nobody lives there. That's a clubhouse for Jupiter Inlet Colony. That's these houses here and around the ocean side there. They set that aside for their personal use or their community use. If that's a private residence, what's your price tag? 30, 40 million, something like that. Yeah, that's a nice piece of property right there. This is the south end of Jupiter Island. Like I said, this is Jupiter Inlet Colony. If you guys are fans of Kid Rock, you can find his house. It's oceanside. He's got a big American flag painted on the garage door. You guys remember Tammy Wynette, the country singer? She used to live in here before she passed away a number of years ago. Are you guys familiar with the band Metallica?
Yes.
A couple of you guys know Metallica. A few metalheads on the boat. That little white house over there with the gray roof right before the pink one, that is Jason Newsted. Jason Newsted, the former bass guitarist for the band Metallica. He actually owns a couple properties around here, so. I am sorry to tell you, if you were looking at this piece of property, you did not pull the trigger quick enough. They just sold it about a week or two ago. I think they were asking like $5.5 million for that dirt right there coming off that vacant lot. I had a lady on the boat one day, she goes, I'd buy it and put a tent there. I'm like, I can't even get the down payment, much less the tent. This area of Florida North is called the Treasure Coast. And it's called the Treasure Coast because of shipwrecks. The ships would leave South America, they would get on the Gulf Stream, and they would head back to Europe. The Gulf Stream's only about 3 miles offshore, and they would wreck on the reefs out there in storms. As he's swimming along, the ocean is really calm and flat and clear, and he looks down in the water, and there really is something in the water. He found a cannon, and then he found another cannon. If you go into Du Bois Park, there's 2 cannons and an anchor. In 14 feet of water just off the jetty out there, they found a Spanish galleon from the 1600s. You see these 2 wave runners in the lift? You see that nice modern 2-story right back there? That's not his original house, but that is the property Mr. Perry Como used to live on. You guys remember Perry? Yeah, Perry used to live right here. He used to come out to that dock, wait for the boats, hit golf balls about 100 yards that away. The guy who started the Manatee Queen, Brian Babbitt, was actually friends with Perry. And Perry and his wife would actually go on the original boat back in the day. So we actually have a picture of him and his wife on the original Manatee Queen, probably 90s time frame, somewhere in there. That's my favorite outdoor living space off to the right there. You see the chairs hanging, the cocoon chairs? Yeah. They never invite me over. I don't know what the problem is. If you need you practice your golf swing, that house there, you put your your putting green right off your back porch right there. Not a bad way to go, right? Who was in Greece?
John Travolta.
John Travolta doesn't live here. Olivia does. She lives up the island farther now, but this yellow house off to the right, that used to be Olivia Newton-John's house right there for a really long time. And I'll point her condo that she moved to later. But when she went to sell that yellow house right there, she went to sell it to someone you might have heard of. Rosie O'Donnell was going to buy that house. And they entered into an agreement, and Rosie said, hey, you got to fix some stuff up in the house. Olivia agrees. Olivia hires a contractor to do the work. Unfortunately, this is where the story takes a very tragic turn. The contractor ends up taking his life in that house. Rosie backed out of the deal. Olivia said never return to that house. Took her 2 years to sell it for roughly half of what she'd been asking for it. So, one of those crazy Olivia stories. Keep an eye out on either side. We did see a couple manatees last time. The sun's not really in the right spot for us to see them, but if you do see something jump out or come up out of the water, give a shout. We'll see if we can see it. If you look off to the left, though, you see the sign on the rocks right over there? There's a little cove back in there, and when we get up by it, you can see there's a little structure right back there. You get to that from the lighthouse on one of the nature trails. In January, February timeframe, you can go back there in that cove and you can find baby manatees just been born. They're like a foot long back in there. So now manatees are highly protected, so don't mess with them. But people do dumb things, and they mess with manatees.
This is exciting.
Top floor. close to $20 million. What comes with condos? Fees. Off to the right over here, that's Sea Watch. That's where Olivia Newton-John had the condo in that big building right there on the ocean side. She used to spend more time here. She hasn't spent a lot of time here in a while, so. These, you can kind of see the sandbars on either side. If you want a good trip, you go out to these sandbars at low tide. You can find unique starfish, sea urchins, and sand dollars on these sandbars. A couple companies in Jupiter, one's called Paddle the Point. They'll actually take you out at high tide over top of these. You can see the water, see through blue. Let's talk golf for a little bit. What does the winner of the Masters golf tournament get other than a big old check?
Green jacket.
Green jacket. See that house right over there to the right? The very first one as we left the nature preserve? That's the guy that makes the green jackets. Begs a question, right? How do you have a multi-million-dollar house on Jupiter Island selling one jacket a year? That's not a brand new jacket. They go into the club, find someone who's your size, and that's the one they put on you at the initial ceremony. And then you only get to take it home for the first year, then it has to stay at Augusta National. So, unless you're Gary Player. Gary took his and never returned it. So all that happened, now they don't talk to each other anymore now. Those of you who follow tennis, Venus Williams lives on the island. You don't get to see her house, but her house is off to the right, ocean side. She lives over on that side of the island. Her sister lives up the Loxahatchee now. She's neighbors with Ricky Fowler up there. She moved up there a couple years ago. All right, let's talk history. How did all this money get on Jupiter Island? This island started back at the inlet we seen earlier. Goes about 14 miles all the way up to Stewart. This island was owned almost entirely by one family back in the day. The Reeds bought this island out of bankruptcy in the 1930s. Someone said they paid like $25,000 for the island. I don't know if that's true. But they started the Jupiter Island Club. And the Jupiter Island Club allowed this island to be the largest concentration of wealth in our country for a while. So in order to be a member of the club, you were invited to join, meaning you were invited to rent a house on the island for a season. Why? To make sure you were the right pedigree and make sure your money was old enough. Burt Reynolds wanted to build on the island. No go. Too much scandal, too much notoriety. Perry Como wanted to be a member of the club. For whatever reason, his wife was not accepted in. At the end of season, Mrs. Reed would have a party for everybody. And if you were under consideration for membership, you would get one of two gifts. If you got accepted into the club, you would get a beautiful pink sweater. If you got the pink sweater, you were in. Life was good. If you did not get accepted into the club, you got a beautiful black cashmere sweater. And if you got the black sweater, you were out. But it went a little farther than that. If you got the black sweater, by the time you left the party, got back to the house you had been renting, someone would come in and pack the house up for you. It was time to go. I am not a greedy individual. I don't need that big house. I am more than willing to settle for the guest house right there, right? My Ford Pinto right next to their Lamborghini. These kids up here are like, what's a Ford Pinto? I don't know who lives in the greenhouse there, but I love their style. They fixed up that nice little house there, and they have a boat that's bigger than the actual house. So, exactly. priorities right there. Let's go with that theory. To see a ton of the property, there's one of his outbuildings right there. Feel free to wave to Tiger, though. There's cameras on all the poles. Behind the blue chairs, there is a little break in the chairs, or in the hedges. You can see a little bit of the property right here. One day we're doing this cruise, and it was like a 2 p.m. cruise, and I'm coming by the house, and I'm not paying attention. And I'm a little closer to this, actually. And I turn around, and who's sitting in the dark blue chair? Tiger. You could have heard a pin drop on this movie. I freaked out. I didn't say a word. I just did the princess wave. He waved back though, so we're friends now, so I'm waiting for my invite. This is a 12-acre estate. This goes all the way to the ocean. His main house is on this side of Beach Road. On the ocean side of Beach Road, there's 2 more houses. In his backyard here, he's got an Olympic-sized swimming pool, an Olympic diving well, and 4 golf courses. One of them is always the Masters turf, and one of them is always the turf he's going to be playing on next. So he's always practicing on the grass he's going to play on. That's his small boat right there, and then beyond his small boat's his little dinghy, otherwise known as a regular boat to the rest of us. His big boat's down in Old Port Cove in North Palm Beach. Anybody know the name of his big boat? It's called Privacy. It's about a 150-foot yacht. It's for sale. If you guys want to buy it, Michaela and I will come and work for you. I think he's asking 36 or 38 million for his boat. Estimated value of this property pre-COVID about 55 to 60 million. What's the cost to maintain a piece of property like this, including old property tax every year? About $5.5 million or so. Any anti-Baltimore Raven fans? They got the dogs out there. That's Steve Bisciotti's property. Bisciotti is the owner of the Baltimore Ravens. So he's in town quite a bit. Nice guy. This property right next door to him, though, this is another one of my favorites. See the cool wooden sailboats there? Look back at the banyan tree. You see the little Swiss Family Robinson action going on back there. They got the tree for it. This is the Charlie from the Charlie and Joe complex. This is Charles Modica. Charles is a local lawyer who started a medical school in Grenada called St. George's, one of the top medical schools in the Caribbean. He's the guy who did the Love Street renovation. He owns the Pelican Club. But what he did for his neighbor across the water, that was Burt Reynolds' house. And Burt in his later years was basically bankrupt and in danger of losing that house. And Charles is the guy that came to him and said, let me buy your house. So Burt sold him his house for about $3.2 million. They put the money in trust for Burt's son. And then Burt was allowed to live there for free until he passed away. Ended up being about 2.5 years. So kind of cool. Burt had done a lot for the community. Donated money, mentored kids. His dinner theater gave a lot of people a shot at acting. It's still here in Jupiter. It's called the Maltz now. So we'll see what the plan is for that house right there. If you do care. That's Al West property. He's another billionaire. But that boat right there, that is a Noah boat. Not Noah the Ark. Noah, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric People boat. They come in, the rundown, he fixes them up. I don't know what he does with them. They disappear, and then he does it over and over again. He always names them something cool. That one's called Who Cares? The one before that was called Who Cares? The one before that was called So What? And then I had a lady on the boat one day and she goes, it looks like a U-Haul store. Guess what? They can paint that any color they want. There's a 1 in 3 shot. You have one of their products in your house. This is Moen Plumbing. Moen faucets, Moen toilets. Yeah. The highest point on Jupiter Island. This house was built by a German gentleman who started the Playmobil toy company. Playmobil blocks, those things. He passes away. They sell this property for $35 million to a guy by the name of John Malone. Mr. Malone, if you don't know who he is, owns Liberty Media. Liberty Media owns XM Sirius Satellite Radio, one of the cable companies, part of the Atlanta Braves. They used to own Formula One racing in Europe. Not a team, the whole thing. They sold it to Disney back in 2020. Largest landowner in our country, worth about 7.5, 8.5 billion, somewhere in there. This property, one of his many, has a cool feature though. Look up top there, you see all the glass? That's a living room. That rotates. Off to the right, everybody wants to know what's going on there. No idea. Well, sort of an idea. They tore down most of that house back there. They're rebuilding it. About 3-4 months ago, that pile of dirt shows up. All I know is they are very optimistic people. They believe that black fence is going to keep that dirt out of the intracoastal. Just saying. These houses over here that we've been passing, most of these go all the way to the ocean side. So you have your main house on this side, your beach house, 2,000-3,000 square foot ocean side. I love this house right here. I think it's a really cool style. Their beach house is an exact replica of their main house. But they didn't want to be too ostentatious, so they shrunk it down to about 1/3 the size. What's it take to have a house on Jupiter Island? one really good idea that makes a lot of money. Little blue boat there in the lift off to the right. There's a house back there. That guy's good idea. He started a company with it called Penny Plate. Anybody know what Penny Plate makes? Disposable aluminum pans, like in the bottom of a chicken pot pie or taking food to the family potluck. Yeah. The guy who lives there currently, you guys know NASDAQ, the stock exchange? The guy who started NASDAQ lives there. So I know that because one day we're going by this house and a young teen boy comes running down that path. And as he's running down that path, he's frantically waving at us and yelling at us. So I slowed the boat down. He comes out to that dock, and as he's running down that dock, he's frantically waving at us and yelling at us. So I stopped the boat. He comes out to the end of that dock, turns around, drops trow, and gave us the moon. See that white house right there with the blue shutters off to the right? That was built as the children's playhouse for the Johnson and Johnson family. Yeah, not too bad, right? It's not owned by them anymore. It's owned by a widowed lady. Her husband, who passed, was president of investment banking for Morgan Stanley for a long time. See where the blue boat is there over to the right? Follow that dock back to shore. Take your sunglasses down. Tell me that's not the whitest house you've ever come across in your life. On our 2 p.m. cruises, that house literally shimmers. It's so white. Ed Stack, Dick's Sporting Goods. Okay? Remember that name. He doesn't live there anymore. He's moved on. But remember that name. Here's the story. Back in the day, Ed Stack, White House, having a party in Ed's backyard. Greg, next door neighbor, lands a small helicopter in Greg's backyard. Blew Ed's party apart. From that day forward, apparently the two never talked to each other again. Little Hansel and Gretel action. Gingerbread house. Don't get too excited, that's the boathouse. Her main house is back in the trees over there. I think she was sitting on her boat earlier, actually. This is the Nimbus, her luxury yacht, and then she has the Nimbus 2, which is her sport fish that goes in and out of here. This is Jennifer Johnson's property. Jennifer Johnson, one of the heirs to the Johnson & Johnson fortune, yeah. One of her brothers still lives on the island, too. Her brother has a son. His name is Jamie Johnson. Jamie's a movie producer. Early 2000s, Jamie does a documentary series called Born Rich that HBO picks up. It explores the lives of these kids who grow up in these ultra wealthy families. One of the episodes that kind of cracks me up is they're interviewing one of these kids from one of these families you've never heard of, and he's turning 18. What's his trust fund payout at 18? $250 million. What did I get at 18? An eviction notice that the world awaits. Okay, let's cut up some fruit back there. If we can do anything for you guys, let us know. Otherwise, sit back, relax, and enjoy the evening out.
Well, it started raining and we're heading on back. It was a great tour. I'm going to try to edit the video and make it look good, maybe put some little tags in there. But this has been a fun trip so far. If you like what you see, please subscribe, and I want y'all to keep on rocking.
I think we can make it.